I'll just introduce myself a little further so you kind of have some context as to how I landed at this crazy adventure called Civil. I did work at Google for several years and helped to create a couple of teams that fostered innovation and experimentation within storytelling, so the Google News Lab, and before that, a team called Google for Media. Prior to that, I did work in broadcast. I worked at ABC, CBS, CNN, and then before that, I was a print reporter at a newspaper called the Vancouver Sun. Anybody have been to Vancouver? Or
I've been to Vancouver and started the Anchorage Daily News.
All right. Well, so I'm going to consider you an honorary West Coaster then. And even before that, I worked in local news as a reporter and a photographer, and went to graduate school for journalism at the University of British Columbia. So anyway, just to kind of give you a sense that I was a science technology reporter. So my whole career has been about some combination of journalism and technology. And almost exactly a year ago, I was sitting at my desk at Google here in New York, and I came across a Nieman Lab article that was the headline was something like, "Civil is going to try to figure out blockchain and journalism." Okay. So I had worked as a journalist covering technology for the better part of 15 years. I worked at Google for 6 years, and I knew nothing about what blockchain was about, what cryptoeconomics involved, what this all meant. And as a lifelong learner, I had to find out more. So I contacted the folks who were behind the Civil website at the time, and Matthew Isles is the CEO, and this is really born out of his vision for what this could be. At the time, as you would imagine, this was a very nascent kernel of an idea. It was he and a couple of other people, but I was just captivated by what it could be. So this is almost a year ago, and I'm going to get into kind of where we're at now and where we're going in the very near future. So the tagline that we have here, if you will, is that we're building a decentralized marketplace for sustainable journalism on blockchain technology. Now, there's a lot to unpack with all of that, and I'm going to run through some slides might take 15 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that, just to kind of set the table a bit. I have a few websites to show you to help, I hope, illustrate what I'm talking about. And when I'm finished, I would love to answer questions, and I'll do my best to answer whatever you want to ask, okay? So I really want to keep this as much of a conversation as possible. So I'm going to kind of go through the initial slides pretty quickly, because I get the feeling if you're here, you have a sense of why the journalism industry is in such a crisis. And as somebody who's seen it from a number of different perspectives, as a reporter, a local reporter who was laid off because our sales targets weren't being met, and this is 25 years ago, to today, of course, when we hear about all sorts of threats to journalism, and I think we can probably in our heads imagine lots of what those are, from bad actors to trolls, to billionaire owners, to broken business models, to fake news, right? The list goes on and on. So if you were to just take for a second all of those things that we know are threatening journalism, the reason that we feel like it's in jeopardy, and I often, when I think about where the industry is headed, it feels like a race to the bottom sometimes for folks who care about this and really want to figure out ways to turn that around. So if you can imagine taking all that stuff that we all don't like and just put it in a box for a second and just slide it over there. It's a hard mental leap, but just imagine putting it away for a second. And then imagine building a platform in service of journalism, period. This is what we are trying to do, okay? And if you think of a platform like Airbnb, Etsy, Uber, Facebook, right? These are all platforms. And they all have different reasons to exist and different reasons why consumers might want to use them or participate in them. The difference between what those are about, a significant difference between what those are about and what we're doing, is those are centralized entities, right? So as I think are all very familiar now, the data goes through centralized servers, centralized hubs. What we're talking about through blockchain is a decentralized platform. So in this way, and I can kind of get into how this is going to work, you can think of this as a cooperatively owned platform. So who owns this platform and who governs this platform and where does it go and what is it in service of? That is up to the citizens who will have the opportunity to participate in this platform or not. And I can get into kind of how that works. So just to kind of frame what I'm going to get into here for a second. And this is where we also see that cryptoeconomics, and I can kind of get into a bit more of how this all works, can help to incentivize people to participate in ways that maybe they wouldn't otherwise, which we can all perhaps debate the sort of the rationale behind why somebody feels like they want to participate in their civic duty, or why they want to vote, what pushes people to want to participate. And we know that not everybody's going to want to participate in running the platform, but there's going to be a small subset of people, and those are going to be the civil token holders, okay? And I can get into kind of what that means and how you might acquire a civil token and what does it give you and all that kind of stuff. But you can sort of think of it a bit like Wikipedia, right? Wikipedia, I would love for somebody to explain to me exactly how Wikipedia works kind of at the very end. How is it that Wikipedia is able to vet an obit 10 seconds after the person dies? What is the process that's going on? Who's verifying this? Who are these people, right? There's not a lot of transparency. You can get more involved if you want to. And this is the reality of how Wikipedia continues to exist, is that a small percentage of people really care about it and they get involved. And the rest of us have started to adopt signals of trust if we can see, well, this information is probably true, or they call out it's under review, or whatever it is. It's up to us to decide, right? So in this way, that's how you can kind of think of the platform being governed. I'm going to get into this in a lot more detail, but I just kind of want to plant some seeds here, okay? I think this is basically what I'm saying. So the other thing to think about is that in the way to think of us as a platform, what we also are is a protocol. So we're not trying to fold the entire internet into a website or force every publisher to use our CMS or anything like that. In fact, and I can kind of also get into what the newsrooms that we're working with have today, and it's a WordPress experience and they have monetization tools. We're not trying to build the next great CMS, okay, to publish content on our platform. Someday, somebody's going to come along with something better. We're a very open source company, and that might replace it someday. The way to think of what these newsrooms are building on, and we have things I can talk about sort of how we're thinking about working with legacy publishers too, is it's a protocol. So HTTPS is a protocol. SMTP is a protocol. It's just a way that computers and networks can speak the same language and communicate with each other, okay? And for newsrooms to build on that protocol, and I can't maybe show you right now, maybe I'll show you in a second, but if everybody can imagine that green lock that you see in your browser bar when you go to put in your credit card information. And over time, I guess, many of us have become accustomed to seeing that, and it makes us feel like we can trust this site and we'll put it in our credit card. It's almost second nature now. I don't think many people even notice it. You might notice when it's not there, but you kind of just expect that it's there. What if that green lock was a C, a letter C? And what that meant to you was that the content that you saw on that site was running on the civil protocol, okay? And all that means is it's exposed to the community of civil token holders. Meaning that the community of civil token holders are the ones holding that content accountable, okay? I can kind of get into how this process works, but over time, what we hope is that people would see some sort of an indicator to tell the audience, this content you're looking at on this website is being held accountable by the civil token holder.